They say everything's bigger in Texas. Will that include a Texas-sized championship points day for any of our contenders? We've gone from the French countryside last week of Le Mans to the flat plains and modern F1 track of COTA this week. 5 drivers, only separated by 20 points at the top of the championship, and only a handful of races remain. Let's strap in and prepare for some excitement as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and with me in the booth is Craig King. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Deploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Let's get an inside look at one of the most mentally and physically demanding circuits in the States with our track guide.
Welcome to Circuit of the Americas. The cliche of everything's bigger in Texas rings true for this track in the Lone Star State. Built specifically for Formula One, the number of corners, circuit length, safety features, and general track amenities immediately set this place apart from almost every racing course in the United States. Of the 3 layouts available, the most widely used is the Grand Prix circuit, which tops out at a whopping 20 turns along nearly 3.5 miles. Many of them have been modeled after well-known sections of European tracks such as Silverstone, Hockenheim, and Istanbul. But compared to those venues, this place still has lots of unique challenges. Turn 1 in particular features the largest elevation change from the lap and culminates in a blind and sharp hairpin. The penultimate corner is just as tough, with its off-camber apex and sudden drop forcing many to escape to the paved runoff on the outside. And though it was meant to lure F1, many other series have now raced here, ranging from IndyCar to WEC, IMSA, and even V8 supercars. Track days are also common, with the SCCA running all types of amateur events to allow up-and-coming drivers to feel what it's like to battle on the same tarmac as Vettel and Hamilton have. With this track, American race fans finally get to experience a purpose-built course made in the modern day. Texas went bigger and better, and in the process, raised the bar for their peers.
Well, Craig, you either love it or you hate it as a driver. It is out there in Austin, Texas. It is very cold in the morning, scorching hot in the afternoon, and then back to cold in the high desert in the evening.
Yeah, Joey. And for a car like these Lotuses, COTA's a beast of a track. It comes in 2 halves with a banana straight to bring it all together. So the first part of the track, it mimics the famous Maggots and Beckett's at Silverstone. So mid-speed, flowing corners, they'll test the grip in these outboard tires. But remember to avoid all those anti-cut curves, and don't ask me how I know. Second half is packed with a lot of low-speed corners that are near 180 degrees. Now, in theory, the slower speed corners will favor the car. But with the blind corners, the test will be the throttle control and timing it right, or else you will face a dreaded off-track and lose speed. Once again, the straight will see the majority of the moves, and with the long straight, it comes down to braking control, as these cars will see high top speeds going down the bumpy straight. Joey, you've been reading my mind, because this is a Marmite track. You love it or you hate it. So really the question is, who likes it the most?
I think one of the reasons why it is so loved or hated, it is an incredibly technical circuit, and if you don't find yourself in front of the track, you will find yourself behind the track. But let's talk about the points championship here as we get going. We've got both the F1 and the F2 points championships. Right now, Seb Tixier is narrowly leading over these 3 competitors you see nipping at his heels. That includes Jorge Nieva, Togo Hisada. Only 7 points separate them, from Seb Tixier, but include drivers 4 and 5. That's Andreas Valenteus and Nikola Kaki. Only call it 23 points separating the top 5 drivers. Kevin Verbruggen's had a heck of a year as well. Cam Porter, it's nice to see him inside the top 10 in the F1 standings. Leo Sequeiro, Jason Clapper, and Ove Trengrade all involved inside the top 10. Craig, I believe you've got our F2 driver standings.
I do indeed. I was just about to bring that because Jonathan Jordan took a really good lead after last week's race at Le Mans. Jan Stefan not having the best of races out there. And again, another week with no Mats Linden, so that could be interesting. The rest of the field is still close together, though, just trying to get to that the top three. Roberto Paransky, Tobias Harari as well, just close behind, and it's good to see just such a broad. But Roberto, with that overall victory in the F2s last week, really could help him launch there. And again, another week with no Mats Linden, anything can happen in that F2 championship.
We also have the Teams Championship, I believe the Cup of Nations, if you will. Right now, Spain is leading the way over Italy by 42 points. But once again, just kind of like the F1 Points Championship, things get tight there. United States only 10 points behind Italy. Singapore only 3 points behind the U.S. Japan also only 13 points behind Singapore. So things inside the top 5 very tight. United Kingdom there in 6th. The Netherlands in 7th. Germany in 8th. Lithuania in Sweden rounding out the top 10. And the last thing on our pre-race checklist over here is the race details today, Craig.
Yeah, well, as we know, it's round 8, and this time it will be 16 laps out there, and it is an open setup. You bring what you made, but don't wreck it because there's no spare car. You crash it, that's your race done. Drive-through penalty will be 17 incident, disqualification at 25. Like I said, Joey, with some of these low-speed corners at the end of the track, those off-tracks can rack up. Don't be surprised to see somebody make a drive-through because of incident points.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I keep mentioning this is a mentally and physically demanding circuit. Maybe not so physically demanding here inside the simulators, but mentally, every single corner feeds into the next corner. So if you get behind in any one of the corners, you're going to get behind in that sector of the racetrack. It is a very, very difficult track to master. Right now, qualifying is going on. There's about a minute left on the board. Seb Tixier is your provisional pole sitter at a 207.0. Nicola Kaki sitting there in second place. Kevin Verbruggen with an excellent qualifying effort so far in the third place. But this driver, Jorge Nieva, is on his second and final qualifying lap here. Coming up to the very, very final corner here, turn number 20. And then it's the blast to the short chute straight away on the front straight here. He's tracking to the good. Let's see what he puts down. 206.945. That jumps him to provisional pole.
It jumps into provisional pole. Seb Tixier was on for another lap, and he got to the final corner, realized that he made a mistake, was not going to be faster. He pulled out there, so interesting what he did. Bjorn Ackerman out there at the moment. Don't think he's going to have time to make too much of a lap. Look how much you're trying to hit the brakes hard on some of these corners as it comes down this slow section, what we were talking about earlier, Joey. He's going to wrap up qualifying. I did see a lot of drivers in quali and practice struggle with grip at the sections near the end of the track at 16 through to 18.
Qualifying is pretty much running down. They got the checkered flag out right now. I kind of want to echo one of your points earlier in those race details. The incident points are going to be pretty crazy here. And also because of those incident points, you're going to have qualifying laps that kind of get thrown out the window, just like what we saw with Seb Tixier. But this is your starting grid. Jorge Nieva, your pole sitter. Seb Tixier joining him on row number 1 in second place. Nicola Kaki in third with Kevin Verbruggen in fourth. Togo Hisada starts inside the top 5 with Steve Morris next to him in sixth. Ovaid Trengrade in 7th with Laust Olsen in 8th. Gary Ho 9th and Gary Quellen, the battle of the Garys on row number 5.
Don't think I can match that, but number 11 will be Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado with John Olsen in 12th. Alan Graham will be 13th with Juan Alberto Escobar 14th. Then Jan Stefan in 15th with Jonathan Jordan in 16th. Cam Porter will be 17th with Kurt Clapper in 18th. And then Matthew Madalski with Michael Grisinger for 20th.
Then we've got Tobias Harnvey in 21st with David Muse sharing row number 11 with him in 22nd. Sebastian Gore in 23rd. Jason Clapper in 24th, and the first of the cars that did not set down a lap time. Also includes Farron Grau, Bjorn Ackerman, Thomas Willershausen, Ron Van Hezek, and Roberto Pingrazzi. I see a few names, a few very, very familiar names They're going to be starting at the back of this one. As always, Jason Clapper never qualifies. He always tries to get that biggest mover award, but I was looking more towards Farron Grau and also Bjorn Ackerman. Bjorn had one heck of a race last week in the Lotus 79s. I know that these do not have the wings or the downforce that those machines have, but he's definitely been up in his game. We've got the lights on from Barney right now, so the revs will come up on the racetrack and patiently wait for the green flag to be dropped. It's an excellent start from Jorge Nieva on the inside of the racetrack. Nicola Cocky also gets a good run. He's going to challenge Seb Tixier up at the top of Big Red. The top 5 worked their way through. A little bit narrow there between Steve Morris and Kevin Verbruggen. We got problems in the back as we head into the S's for the first time.
It looks like Farron Grau had a mistake there as well. Matthew Melzi is also having a mistake. Look at Toga Hisada. Great start from him. Almost went 3 wide down into Big Red, or up into Big Red, but not able to make a move at the moment. But now this is where Nieva will have to try and use this ability now. He's got the clear air. He's already pulling ahead. He's just got to get to turn 11 to really start to unwind.
Let's call it the most technical S section on the racetrack, and now we kind of head down a short shoot downhill into turn number 11. You got to make sure to get all of these hairpin braking zones right at this Austin, Texas track, because most of the time they lead out onto a straightaway. And if you don't get the power down, you don't get the launch, well, guess what? You don't get the top speed that you need. On the back straights, it is Nieva, Tixier, Gaki, Hisada, and Verbruggen. Your top 5 as they all pick out that brake marker, jump on the binders, get these cars slowed down into what is the most tedious section on this racetrack.
Yeah, you saw an overtake in the background. That was John Olsen. He's having a battle with Gary Quillen, but at the front, it is still pretty together. The side-by-side, you're not going to be seeing that so early. These drivers know the pace, know the ability, and they know just get clear of some of these drivers. They'll look to make some moves. These two, though, having a little battle. Gary Quillen, they're just getting overtaken again from John Olsen. They went side-by-side from 13 and 14 there, Joey. I don't think I've seen that for a while in any sort of racing.
I think that maybe some incident limits are being taken advantage of out there. But Gary Quellen here in the 11th place is trying to get by John Olsen. That's the car that's directly in front. That's the white nose with the blue sides there, the number 7. You can kind of already see the breakaway that's happening. The top 5 have created a little bit of a gap. Call it a 2-second gap back to Ove Trengrade, this black and orange themed car. Then we've got a pack of, call it this, 4 or 5 here, ending with Gary Ho, and then there's that 2.5-second gap back to John Olsen. So I think maybe COTA already showing how difficult it is on the opening lap. And Craig, something we didn't even mention, we've talked about the incident points, but if you get a slowdown on the opening lap, it's almost a death sentence.
Yeah, the slowdowns, of course, you've got to remember it's based on where your average delta is, and this is just an incredible setup from Gary Ho. We looked at him, made a mistake trying to defend Laus Olsen going into turn 1, made that mistake, and Laus got through. He's losing a bit of time here, but when you're like this, he's got the fan, he's got the 4D experience here, not the 3D experience. He's got everything going. Don't want to know what happens when he gets tire slides like that, though. You'd almost feel the car would want to go a little bit sideways in the motion rig there.
I think Gary Ho is happy it's not raining, so that way his sim rig's not getting soaked from some misters that I'm pretty sure he's got set up for the immersion factor in there. It is an incredible setup. I'm very, very jealous of what he's got there, as this is Juan Escobar making a move in turn number 12 here. He's battling with Marco Salgado. Marco was actually able to kind of put the hammer to the ground there and be able to launch himself away from the number 17 of Escobar. And I always say the front of the pack, it might be fast, but if you want to find the toughest racing, it is definitely in the middle. Nicola Cocky trying to make a move here on Seb Tixier, getting it down to the inside. That is usually not a passing opportunity in turn number 19. This feeds into the final turn here. It is definitely drawn up that number 2 car. That's the 3rd car in line. That's Togo Asada. But I think what Nikola Kaki is probably trying to say to Seb right now is, don't let Nieva run away. He just put down another fastest lap, and his gap has grown to 1.5 seconds.
Oh, the spin for Toga Hisada. There was a gap there was an opening, and he just put it in there, and his rear wheels, or that one set of wheels, touched the other set of wheels. Couldn't see if it was front or back and front. He's going to have to wait. He's going to go all the way down the ladder. Not what he wanted to see on a day like this. There was an opportunity there, I felt, Joey. It just felt like it closed at the very last moment.
Let's take a look at the replay here. This is going to be a little bit earlier. This is the opening lap of Farron Grau up into turn number 1. That was a little unfortunate between himself and Bjorn Ackerman. Looks like Bjorn has retired from the race. And then this is Nikola Kaki here going into what is turn number 11. I believe we're back to everything live out here. So Nikola is going to be chasing down Seb Tixier in that second place position. So what was very, very close at Big Red, also known as turn number 1, has now kind of spread apart just a touch.
Yeah, and here's that replay as well. Yeah, that there was a chance, but with how tight and how that angle on turn 1 is, it's almost a hairpin, but it's not a hairpin. It's almost, I would almost say you're looking at about 130 degrees instead of 180. And yeah, that there was an opening there, but it closes up so much. I think Togo got a little bit caught out there, but you've got all the views when it comes to these open cockpit cars. So it's quite interesting to see what happened there.
Oh, a little half spin from Michael Grissinger, and he's able to grab a gear, get it back on the racetrack. Looks like Cam Porter might be a little bit held up by the car rejoining the racetrack, so he's going to have to kind of figure out what exactly his line is going to be. Maybe it's to the inside, but he's going to be on the wrong side of the racetrack going into this, call it 17 and 18 triple apex right-hander. If you can carry the speed and the grip around the top side, that's exactly what Cam Porter is going to do. Move him past Kurt Clapper. He's actually got Jason Clapper directly in his mirror, and Jason, probably our biggest mover so far. I haven't checked yet because we're only working lap number 4, call it a quarter of the way through the races. Jason kind of sets up this pass on Cam.
Yep, it was +8. If he gets past Cam, it will be +9 for the day. And Cam goes, you're faster than me. That's fine. I'm just going to be here and just going to be working on some of my woodwork and doing a little bit of laving while I'm enjoying the racing out here. And it's good to see Cam. And I think he's a little bit frustrated there because he knows, yes, he's given the position up, which is fine. He's not over-aggressive fighting, but he just realized he's losing a bit of pace here. Matthew Morosely trying to make his own little battles right behind. It is so tough, though, to get past Kurt Clapper just to see what you can do, because now Cam's in a Clapper sandwich, not the place you want to be.
No, and I'm happy we caught this car right here because he is rolling again on the racetrack. His last lap time not representative because, remember, he had that spin there in turn number 1, but his pace is rapidly closing in on the battle we were just talking about, Craig, with Maudsley, Clapper, Porter, and the other Clapper on the other half of the sandwich there. So Togo was about 3.5 seconds back when he started this lap, and going down the back straightaway, he's already cut it down to, call it 1.9 seconds. As we check back in on our leader, I was a little worried that Nieva was starting to gap it out up front. He was up to about, call it 1.5 seconds before we had the little Quesada, Kaki, Tixier incident. It seems like Seb is got his, call it his sea legs underneath him. He's not wobbling around out there anymore. He's starting to reel back in our leader.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're pretty high above the sea level here, so I don't think you want to have your sea legs here. Maybe you have to look out for a little bit of air sickness or elevation sickness going up that steep hill to Big Red here. And Seb now having to look a little bit behind, but he's starting to look forward. Kevin Verbruggen just setting the fastest lap as well. He's coming into this battle. It's going to be a four-car shot here for this lead, but without Toga Hisada, which it was about 5 minutes ago. So nothing's changed in terms of the pack. It's just who's in the pack at the moment.
Very interesting from that number 6 car that he put down the fastest lap. I don't want to necessarily jump to him right now because unfortunately his connection's a little bit Blinky, if people know what I'm talking about. So I hope that kind of gets settled out and Kevin can just kind of continue his fantastic race so far, because he is right on the back of Nicola, who's right on the back of Seb. I think that this top 4 now has separated themselves. It was top 5, but Togo Hisada finds himself well down the order, and what was a 1.5 second gap for our leader is now shrunk down to, call it, about 3/4 of a second. Here's that driver that I was just mentioning here, Craig. Togo Hisada making his way through some of the back marker cars, but these are all for position. He's got to race respectfully. Yeah,
he had such a run there coming out of 10, but he had to lift off. He could go for a double overtake here. Managed to get the double over Kurt and Matthew there. I think that was just a little bit of Kurt making a mistake there and Togo going through. Let's look at this seriously for a moment. In terms of recovery drives right now for him, for Togo, he's 25 seconds behind the leaders. Let's factor out the fact that he's battling for a top 5 or a podium right now. But you look at that, 14 seconds behind Gary Ho. There is a chance here he could maybe, top 5 is a stretch, but there is definitely a top 10 in the cards for him.
When I always think about comeback drives, it is, when does the mistake happen, right? If it happens early in the race, you usually don't lose a ton of actual track position. You might lose a lot of, call it, actual positions because everybody is grouped up together. But in terms of everything being stretched out, it's not stretched out too far yet. So to your point, Craig, I think that Togo Hisada can have a great redemption drive. It's just how far can he climb? His lap time should put him easily inside the top 5. We know he's capable of winning the race. It's just how much can that time delta close in, as Gary Quellen definitely looks like a big move. John Olsen is still I don't want to say he's holding this group up because Gary hasn't been able to find a way around him and Juan hasn't been able to find a way around Gary. So I think that John Olsen up front is doing a terrific job, but he's definitely got about 4 or 5 cars lined up behind him.
Yeah, and the way you saw Gary try to attack turn 1 there just kind of showed that he is a little bit on the hot seat here, thinking I've got to get past to try and catch up to the rest there, because that looked a little bit like the if gap car moment, almost like Togo's moment. The gap looked there, and then the moment John starts turning into the apex, where's the gap? Where's the door? It's shut. Come back again later. We're closed for the day. So that's what it feels like there. And I think that's not going to be the last time we see that today. That's probably the second time we've seen that on camera. Do not be surprised if that's another time. Cam Porter getting overtaken from Togo Hisada. That's another one for Togo. He's up to 16th now. Is there going to be a response from Cam? I'm not entirely sure if Cammy's garage red car here is going to be able to make a move. He's got to try it, though.
I love seeing Cam get the elbows out. Just Togo is so good on the brakes. You were able to see him just kind of lunge it that extra maybe 10 yards or so deeper into the brake zone. But Cam put the nose there. He showed the car in the mirror to Togo Hisada and said, you know what? If you're not going to hit your marker, if you think I'm going to take it easy, I am right here ready to race you back. And I also think that this is a great opportunity. It doesn't matter if you're Cam Porter or anybody else. You know that Togo is one of the fastest drivers, and now he's directly in front of you. See what his driving line is like. See if he's using a different brake marker, a different apex, a different turn-in, whatever it may be. See where he is faster. Start taking those notes and apply them to yourself and try to get faster out there. As Gary, I'm sure he's going to have another look at the top of the hill. Remember, John Olsen got a little bit deep into Big Red a couple laps ago, but was able to hit the apex nicely this time.
You mentioned that you follow someone, you learn their lines, you learn everything. Now, you would have thought Gary would have learned what John did there. And again, Gary wanted to turn in earlier into that first corner, and you could see it's not working. Even if John isn't there, he is scrubbing a lot of time off, and maybe he just needs to look at what John's doing, because John opening the corner out a little bit more. Yes, it looks like he's going wide, but such is the nature when you get to the top of Big Red, it is almost like a tabletop. So maybe he wants to look at what John's doing there for a moment, get a little bit of insight, because that wider line and in is helping. Marco, though, unfortunately, is not helping him. He has gone around there. Not sure what happened there, unfortunately, to Martin. Did he have a little tap? All by himself, I'm afraid.
Unfortunate as Togo continues to go up towards the top of the charts here. That's around the that's around turn number 11 out there. I was looking at the wrong side on my track map. It's going to go to the inside of Jan Steffen. He sees them going side by side in front. That's Jason Clapper making a move on Jonathan Jordan. So Jason up to 12th, and he actually struggles to keep it on the racetrack. Call it the Max Verstappen line there a little bit in turn number 12. Allows that pink number 21 to close it right back in on the gearbox. You see the difference in driving lines between these front two and then this white and red number 2. I think Togo knows that autocross line through the very, very slow areas of this racetrack is actually the quicker bit.
Yeah, and if you also saw as well, Jan made the mistake there. He tried to outbrake Togo. He was never going to outbrake him because, unfortunately, the moment he starts braking later, he's upsetting where he's changing down on gears and clutching and blipping, and it just cost him to go a little bit wider. So now Togo's playing it safe. Get a good run here. Look how more controlled he is through the corner with Jonathan there, just having a little bit of a slide. This is an easy overtake for Togo. There's going to be no slipstream required. He's through straight away. He's in the unlucky 13. He is now -8 for the day, but crucially, he's 13th. They're at the halfway house. And you've got to feel, maybe, just maybe, he is now only 9 seconds away from Gary Ho, or 13 seconds away from Gary Ho. Yeah, that top 5 may not be on, but yeah, look where he could get to.
Yeah, and call it we're approaching halfway. I know we are on lap number 8 of 16, but we're still getting to, well, actually, you know what? Let's call it halfway, because the leaders are on the back straightaway right now. That's pretty gosh dang close to smack 50% of the race. And Seb Tixier, what was 1.2 seconds last lap, is now only down to a quarter of a second behind Nieva. I haven't gone back to see if maybe Jorge made a mistake somewhere or maybe got a little bit of slowdown, but that gap definitely fluctuated. It's brought back in as buddies of Seb, Nicola, and Kevin. They have all been hanging out on the playground, waiting their chance to play on the monkey bars, trying to get that top spot away from the number 1 car.
Well, Jorge has been Mr. Consistent. It's Seb that's been the faster car at the moment because Jorge's been doing nothing but 207.5s, 207.4s. Last lap for Seb, Nikolai, and Kevin, 207.2. They're all working together in some respect and getting up to the back of Jorge. So the question now is, can they use that ability to just climb another rung up the ladder? And with a mistake like that from Nieva, it could be now the time to go. Has he overdone those tires a little bit, Jorge? The number 1 car, surely, in the number 1 car for a reason. You're not going to be having that moment. Seb's going to try and look for that move. But look how wise that is. He realizes he can't make it. He pulls out the last moment, and now the pressure's on.
I call him the nicest guy in sim racing, our leader, Nieva. He'll always leave the door. He'll even give up positions at the end of the race if he feels like you had or you earned that position. He's a straight-up, honest guy, and it is great to see him racing at the front. Oh, my goodness, Tixier almost got into the back of the left rear. Do not take Nieva's kindness for a lack of speed. To my point, though, Craig, I wonder how much faster he could actually be if he got the elbows out, if he closed the door on his competitors every once in a while. Tixier way deep into turn number 11. He's not going to have the drive off. Nieva's going to get him back down the straightaway.
He's going to get him back on the straightaway, but you've got to feel that Seb now has a little bit of slipstream, and this may be able to help him. He's shown twice. He's shown thrice as well that he can brake later. Is he going to pull out to the left here to try late braking down into turn 12? He is indeed. 12 could be the moment. He's sliding. He's sliding. He gets that car under control. Brilliant moment there, but has he got the speed to get back? He does indeed. 13's a slow corner. He'd have to go on the defense. It's going to affect his line. There's no room for Nieva. If he's going to do this, he'll have to do this around the outside of 15. And they almost come together. And they do come together. I see a nose that has fallen off the number 1 car there.
My goodness, Nieva, you're going to owe me a milkshake after this. I just called you the cleanest, nicest guy in sim racing, and then we go and punt the leader. It's side by side still between Kaki and Nieva. Nicola's going to get the inside and over-under from the number 1 car. I don't think that the nose damage is going to affect Jorge Nieva too much, and there it goes, kind of escaping off of the racetrack. Another over-under attempt, almost contact between the nose and the left rear between our second and third place car. You know, Kevin Verbruggen's just sitting there in his seat saying, oh my goodness, I'm just going to wait, watch all these guys wreck themselves and hopefully collect the positions. But Nicola is able to slide up into second place there. I wonder if maybe that damage is affecting the car a little bit on Nieva.
I'm not entirely sure. The nose, yes, you'll have a little bit of aerodynamics loss, but these are bathtubs. You don't really have aerodynamics when it comes to these cars, so he might be able to just keep going. You can see, though, Nicola was trying to overdrive that car a bit, and twice in that process was able to make a move. There's a hole there. The Jorge could have put his car in. I was going to say his nose. He's got no nose anymore. Could not make it, but the more these three battle, well, two, because Kevin's just there enjoying the view, the more these two battle, the more Seb's thinking, just keep doing it. I'm having fun right now. I've got some clear air. I'm really curious what time Seb can now put down. Now he's got nothing in front of him.
He immediately moves to call it the serpentine down the back straight a little bit, just try to block the slipstream. If anything, Jorge's got to run, but on the brakes, he does not make the lunge going into turn number 12. So they both jump over those apex curbs, line up this next tricky turn 13. Be very, very gentle on the throttle here, rolling it through turn number 14 and then back on the brakes. Keep it nice and tight to the apex at 15 and 16. And then the car, or I should say the track, starts to open up back that little bit into this triple apex right-hander of 17, 18. A little bit of a downhill. I gotta say that Nieva does not seem to have lost any pace. I was wondering if the nose was going to affect him at all, but it seems like he's almost taken a deep breath back here and been able to kind of reset his mental state, and he's back on the attack, literally on the gearbox of Cocky.
He is, and in fact, he's going to try this around the outside. In fact, there was nowhere else for him to go. He had so much speed, he had to take to the outside. And this is going to be a move around the outside of turn 1. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And he even hesitates there to try the cutback because he doesn't know where Nicola is. Such is the nature of turn 1. He's just going to sit back and now just watch. But how much time has that cost him? We talked about those times. 2:07.6 for Seb. 2:07.8 for Nicola, 2:08 flat for Jorge. They are starting to lose a little bit of time to that number 5 who's up ahead now. And talking about people that are up ahead, there's Togo Hisada. He's made 2 positions up. He managed to get some more almost, and while that was happening, Jorge Nieva made a mistake at turn 7, and he has lost a position.
Oh my goodness, Mr. Consistency. You know, Craig, hang on. Let's go ahead and say this is our fault. This is the commentator's curse. We'll stop saying his name, and maybe he'll get everything regrouped back there. Togo Hisada had a moment in turn number 1, and it wasn't because of himself. It was because of Gary Quellen and John Olsen. This battle has literally gone on all race long, all 11 laps. So they are at each other's, call it throats out there, trying to argue the position. Togo Hisada now looks down to the inside. No, he's actually going to be patient, try to get the launch off of the corner. That's pretty much exactly what he does. He now finds himself right in the slipstream of Gary Quellen, and I believe we're probably going to have a replay here of that mistake that Nieva made there, Craig.
Yeah, not entirely sure what happened there. It almost looks like he's hit a bump, or he just got caught out there from what Nicola was doing. Very interesting moment. Togo Hisada almost goes into the 14 there and just holds off, and Gary Quellen just had to make sure he's still alive. But you've got to feel the time is now, because Togo's getting, we'd say, a little bit frustrated, but it's more the fact that Togo's got the pace. He's looking for it, and he's not going to try. He tried to go around the outside there, and Gary made the mistake, and Togo had to make an avoiding reaction there, and Gary straight away apologizes on the radio, the respect given by both of them.
Well, and this is the battle going on for the podium. Kevin Verbruggen almost made the move into turn number 1. He had a shot at it. Nicola Cocky was able to be late on the brakes and close the door, and then you got the Mad Max mobile of Mr. No Name. I'm not even going to put his name out there, trying to recover. But in terms of the points championship, remember, we opened the show talking about how close those points championships really were. And Tixier only had a single point advantage as things are very busy at the top of the hill in turn number 1. I think Jason Clapper maybe overshot the corner, gave up several positions. Togo Asada is now back in the fight after having that huge off track, so he's going to have to find a way around that light blue of Gary Quellen. But back to my long-winded point, Tixier a single point ahead of Nieva, but you see Seb is actually several positions ahead of Nieva out here right now. So this is that championship point swing that can happen just past halfway.
We're at a NASCAR track and people love to shout championship implications when something happens on a NASCAR track, and that is what has happened today. And you've got to feel as well, can Togo finally make this move? He can. It was about round 3, round 4 for these two. Finally gets the run he wanted. He'll be able to pull away. Juan Escobar is the next man, but these 4 still battling. And if you're the man who should not be named, right now you've got your popcorn bucket, you've got your couch ready, you're just waiting for the moment he's seeing 3 other cars have a nice little blast. And yes, I say 3 because out of nowhere Nicola has caught up to Seb Tixier. That could be interesting when we're coming now down to the final 4 laps.
You see a little bit of going too deep on the brakes for that pink number 21. Cam Porter was able to basically just pull the easy over-under, get that position back. So jump up front here. It is Tixier, Kaki, Verbruggen, Nieva, and I think I'm going to agree with you, Craig, but oh my goodness, way deep into the corner goes Nieva. That was a dive bomb, and Kevin Verbruggen saw it coming from a mile away, left the door completely open, and then secured the position by just getting to the throttle in the apex before Nieva did on that over-under. So no position change, but maybe today is the day that call it blue and orange number 1 car actually has his elbows out. He's looking more aggressive than really I've ever seen him.
Question is Nieva human, or is this finally an Achilles heel for him? Togo Asada finally hits the top 10, and was that a move around the outside of turn 1? I believe it was. Real good driving there from all of them to get that by. He's now going to start pulling away. Gary Ho is only 2 seconds ahead. With the time left, you've got to feel he'll even get to John Olsen first, then Gary Ho. He won't get to Gary. He'll definitely get to John Olsen, which is that car just ahead there in the camera.
Yeah, I think so too. 4 laps remaining. We'll call it about 3.5 laps remaining. Definitely at least 1 more position, then I think he's going to have to call it hope for others' mistakes if he wants to gain any more out there. So, our battle up front. Remember, Seb Tixier was chasing that blue number 1 car for, call it the first half of this race, and then was able to get by. Nieva made a mistake by getting into the back end of Tixier. That's where the front end damage came from on the front end here. And then he just hasn't been able to recover ever since that mistake down there in turn number 7. He's shown some aggression to try to get by Verbruggen here in this light blue number 6 machine, but just hasn't been able to secure a move directly in front. And Kaki kind of got a little bit wide there in turn number 19, slid the nose a little bit, was able to recover, but if anything, we've got 2 battles of 2 that have closed up.
Got battles with battles at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see who makes the first run. Now, we saw Jorge try to go for a move like this last time by. He's going to try again. And I think he's gone too hard again. And in fact, he does a little bit of Tokyo drifting, loses that position. There is still an overlap. He might be able to do a little battle here, but I don't think he's able to. And you can just see this feels a little bit like desperation out there for Nieva. He has to try and get those positions because he realizes championship standings here with Seb in the lead. He's going to lose a few points out there, not what he wants to be.
I think desperation for sure. If anything, I think that Kevin let him by in turn number 1. He realizes that Nieva's fast, and look at the closing rate again. Jorge just has to check up at the top of the hill to not run over Verbruggen right in front of him, and that's no fault to Kevin. He's running his full maximum pace. It's just that Nieva's kind of dug himself a hole out there that he's got to dig himself out of. So gets the run down the straightaway. I think where that nose damage comes into play here, Craig, is the top speed. You see Nieva all in the slipstream until the very, very last second on the brakes, and then just doesn't have the confidence in the front end to really jump on any sort of downforce or make sure that there's grip on the front end. So I think it's definitely showing its head in the high-speed stuff.
Yeah, there's a word, gamesmanship, and that's what he's trying to do right now. He's trying to do things to make Kevin make the mistake. That's going to be his best bet to make this overtake, unless he goes for one more attack on to turn 1. Well, he's got a chance for 2 more attacks onto turn 1, but you know what I mean. Lap traffic ahead of the 2 leaders, so that's going to be an interesting moment there. You just saw it. Will they be able to get out of the way before these 2 come by? It's Sebastian Gore, and I believe the answer will be not yes. Yes, I was going to say no for a moment, but Seb pulls over to one side. That's very handy for those drivers. It doesn't help Kochi, though, because that could have been an opportunity to make a move. He's not going to make it, but round 5 for Nueva versus Verbruggen, is he going to try this one more time? He is, you know, and I think this time he still can't get it under control.
But he's able to put the power down coming out here, so let's see the run through turn number 2. Nieva's got the inside line, the shortest distance, secures the 3rd place position finally. I had mentioned I really do think Verbruggen kind of left the door open the previous lap, but Nieva just kind of shot himself in the foot in completing the pass the previous lap. This time was able to actually get the power down, so call it 1 3/4 lap remaining. And the order, Seb Tixier out front, our championship points leader, as Togo Hisada continues his scrap. He has not been able to escape from John Olsen and Jason Clapper, so he is just kind of right in the thick of it. I think, if anything, he has caught the back of John Olsen and brought along Jason Clapper as well as Gary Quellen, so that battle still remains, but I want to look a little bit more up front, maybe here as things are starting to close in into turn number 12. I do think that Nieva still has pace to close it in, but can he make the move for what is going to be the lead, and how aggressive does Kaki get in some of these big-time break zones?
Going to be interesting, because after this lap, there'll be one more lap to go, and you've got to feel, where is Nicola going to make those moves is the important question. And they come down this straight one more time. I call it a banana-esque straight because it really does have that little bend to it, but regardless, straight on they go. Is there going to be any chance? The question is, where are the opportunities? Turn 1, turn 12. We've seen people try to make a late dive into turn 7. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do out there. And while this is happening, I can report Togo actually did finally make that move on John Olsen. They're still battling. He's lost control. He went around the outside of turn 12 to make that move onto John Olsen.
It is some pretty amazing racing going on back here. We can definitely check on this, as the lead is not quite close enough as they start their final lap. Togo Asada had made the pass on this blue and white number 7, but John Olsen has been a thorn in everybody's side. And look at the move from Jason Clapper. He has a huge slide. That opens up the door 3 wide through turn number 19. Gary Quellen takes advantage, and Togo Hisada is finding out that, guess what? The pace is fast up front, but the fighting is fierce in the mid-pack. I think that these guys and gals, they fight harder in the middle of the field than they do towards the front. And now we've got our battle. Nieva has closed it in on Nicola Kaki. If anything, Seb Tixier has a little bit of breathing room. The launch out of turn 11 is so important.
It's so important. In fact, while we were talking, Nicola tried to go around the outside of turn 8. Yes, turn 8. And almost tried to make it stick. He could not. The speed of the car with no nose. That's Jorge Nueva. Is he going to try and make this? He thinks against it. And then he comes back in. He broke early to try and compensate. And he's going to make that move. This could be vital. Is that going to be a mistake from Koshi? He was going to have to lose a little bit of time here. But now it's a 2-car fight. And now Koshi goes wide. It's a 3-car fight there for the final 3 positions at the top. And yes, I said that right.
Nicola just got in a little bit too deep. It is so easy to do in those very, very slow corners, but well managed out front from the number 5 car, Seb Tixier. I hope he's got it on his virtual reality. Maybe it's even me driving that thing, and that's why he's finding checkered flag in victory lane. One more turn to go, an excellent looking car, an excellent race, all performed by Seb Tixier. He is your winner here in Austin.
He gets the win. Nueva gets that P2. What a fight at the end there. He manages to hold on to it at the very last moment. Verbruggen gets that third. And what a shame there for Koshi, just overdoing it in the fourth. A quiet P5 for Trengere. He was +2 for the day. And you'll get to start some of the other drivers. Steve Morris just coming back in 6th. Started 6th, finished 6th. There's Lars Olsen. Another good drive on his comeback season. Gary gets the 8th. And look who he gets the 9th. Togo Histada made the move into turn 12 one last time. And you've got to feel at 9th. That's a fantastic recovery drive.
I don't think that Togo is necessarily going to be happy with his finishing result, but you know what? You got to learn something from every, call it, incident out there on the racetrack, no matter if you felt you were wronged or if you made the move that kind of put yourself in that bad spot out there. We're going to get our official results on the screen, and Seb Tixier, who led into today on the championship point standings by only a single point, will extend that margin over Jorge Nieva, who finished in 2nd place, who entered today 2nd place in those championship points. So I think that Nieva was probably hoping for a win today, especially after starting this race on pole position, but those two at the top of the championship, also at the top of the race results today. Kevin Verbruggen with a fantastic race, just kind of hung out in 5th and then in 4th, let everything unfold in front of him, and then had an excellent race with Jorge himself. He finishes on 3rd place on that podium. Nikola Kaki, with that little bit of a slip-up, goes down to 4th. Uwe Trengere, we didn't mention much about him, had a 5th place finish. Steve Morse in 6th. Laust Olsen in 7th, Gary Ho in 8th. Then we documented Togo Hisada's kind of comeback drive, and especially that battle with John Olsen, who finishes in 10th.
Well, the second page, Gary Colin gets that 11th, and Jason Clapper, if you play the game at home, +12 for the day, with Cam Porter +4 in 13th. Juan Escobar will finish in 14th, with Jonathan Jordan in 15th. Very good there for the F2 Championship. Jan Stefan will be 16th, and of course Marco Antonio Lopez Delgado will be 17th. Matthew Mosley will be 18th. Kurt Clapper finishes 19th, and then Michael Grisner will be 20th, and we still got one more page.
Yeah, 21st was Tobias Harnvey, and then Alan Graham in 22nd. David Muse finishing in 23rd. Thomas Willershausen was the last car on the lead lap to finish in 24th back here. Sebastian Gore did finish the race, albeit one lap down. And then the rest of the names that you see here, Van Hezek, Grau, Ackerman, and Pingrazi, they all had issues early on and unfortunately did not get to see the checkered flag at the end of this one. I think we've got our race winner here joining us in the booth. Going to be Seb Tixier. And how does it feel? It's got to be, what is it, the paint, maybe the name? Where did you find the extra speed from?
I had a racer stamp below my car and give me motivation to go fast, for sure.
Well, dude, it was an awesome race to watch. I thought that maybe in the first half you didn't quite have the pace. Was it Nieva's car just falling off, or did you figure something out a handful of laps into it?
Oh no, it's just that I think since ever, that's why in qualification I never managed to do as good as in practice. I'm not good. I'm like a diesel. I need time to warm up, so first lap I'm always way slower than my normal pace. I have to warm myself, warm the tires, warm the car, warm everything.
What do you think about this racetrack? Kind of a generic question here, because it's one of these tracks that people either love or they hate. I think it's incredibly demanding on the mental side of things. What's your opinion of COTA?
The first, I mean, apart from the last sector, the very twisty bit where I almost die several times, I really like the rest of the track. You know, often we say like if there's some track we say, well, those tracks are really good for outlapping but very bad for racing. And I think COTA is opposite. It's like there's so many different racing lines that for outlapping is meh, but for racing is very fun. The first races for me is like skiing. You know, you have to like slalom skiing. You have to go through all the proper turn, and if you miss the first one, you out of pace, out of rhythm, and then you lose 1 second on the whole races part. Really like this part.
I knew I liked you for a reason. I grew up a downhill skier myself over here. So, Seb Tixier, congrats on the win. You had a single point lead in the championship. You extended it over Nieva. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Thanks for GSRC for the broadcast as usual. The Lotus 49 community, especially Mick, Gary, and Nick. And shout out to my team Platinum Racing.
Well, that was our winner, Seb Tixier, today, definitely managing the back half of the race to find victory lane. And I believe that Craig has caught up with Jorge Nieva, who finished in second.
Yep, just trying to find Jorge before we get. I'm just going to say, you did a little bit of bad there, Joey, today. So the good thing I'm doing the commentary, the interview, because you did call him Mr. Consistency, and I think you gave him the curse. But Jorge, that was a really tough race out there for you today. You looked on top, and then everything just fell apart a little bit when you got overtaken. What happened?
I don't know. You say I'm Mr. Consistency, but today I saw that I'm not. I made a mistake, and Nicola and Kevin passed me, and I thought I was a little bit faster than them, but Seb was out of reach. His quali lap was the first attempt on the quali, and it was an amazing time. I don't know how he could manage that. The only reason I was on pole is because I did my second lap, and probably he didn't, but he was unreachable today. But I'm exhausted right now.
Yeah, we do see on the replay here, unfortunately, he's not finishing with a nose after that slight tap out there. We did ask Seb, and it did almost look like as well. COTA didn't look very strong for you out there today. Is this one of your missed tracks out there? Are you just happy to get this done for the season?
I never drove here. I bought the car last week, and it was very hard for me to find the lines, and finally with a lot of training and the help of Kevin, I did some races fighting with Kevin, and I finally found something, and it was almost enough.
It was almost enough. It was enough to get a P2 in the that's all good, but that does mean the championship gets a little bit closer for you two, which means next week we're at Brands Hatch out there. That is a track suited for these old cars. How are you, or what are you expecting out there for Brands Hatch?
I know I've been there a lot of times. Honestly, I don't know if I'm fast or slow there, so I have to find out. I can't remember if the other guys are faster than me as in other tracks.
Well, Jorge, you gave us a fantastic battle out there today. Before we let you go, is there anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to apologize to Seb, because when he overtaken me, I almost crashed into him. I broke my nose, but luckily it doesn't matter with this car. And I'd like to thank Kevin for the races during the week. It was really fun. And I would like to send my support to the victims of the floods around Valencia and other parts of Spain, because it's really sad what happened. So, all for them.
Yeah, that's a serious moment. That is some nice thoughts and sympathies there to those affected in Valencia. Jorge, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us today. Congratulations on your P2. That was Jorge Nieva. Joey, I believe you're still down in the virtual pit lane. Is that a Kevin Verbruggen I see with you?
Yeah, we're up in the nice luxurious commentary booth. Kevin Verbruggen's hopped out of his racing suit and has joined us up here. We've got champagne, mimosas, everything going on. Kevin, congratulations on the podium.
Thank you. Yeah, the champagne shower was nice. Yeah, because from this side it was very sweaty.
Yeah, I mean, that's what COTA is, right? It's a very demanding racing circuit. It doesn't matter if it's in the sim or in the real world. But you had an exciting race. You were very, very patient, and it paid off for you, didn't it?
Yeah, at the start of the race, I definitely didn't have the pace of the guys I had. Well, I say that, but I'm pretty sure I set my fastest lap in those laps. But I had to push like hell just to stay in the draft of those. But in the end, when people started battling more and more, I could luckily take some advantage out of that.
I'm gonna try to humble you a little bit over here, because you said you didn't have pace, Kevin, but I'm looking at our entire result sheet. You were the only driver to set a 2:06 in today's race.
Yeah, that is a nice one. That's one to take home. Yeah. I hope I can keep going like this, because this is an amazing result, and I do think I started losing the pack a little bit, like halfway through the race, and then Jorge and me had a nice battle, and I think that in the end actually helped me a little bit, because Jorge somehow could just do those laps close to that. Well, not the fastest apparently, but close to that, just lap after lap, and he pulled me back to the lead pack. And congratulations to him for the second place as well, instead for the win. Great driving by them.
I think that you did a terrific job out there today. My last question for you, is it just COTA that you kind of get along with? Because next week is Brands Hatch, and then we go to Snetterton, two totally different tracks than what we just saw here today.
Frankly, I'm very surprised I was as fast as I was. Usually I'm faster on the more tight, bumpy tracks. Like I had a podium at Oran Park, at Oldham Park. Being able to be fast on a track like this, it's wide open, not as bumpy as those, that's a good sign.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Watch out for Kevin Verbruggen in these upcoming tracks that may suit his style a little bit more. While I've still got you here, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to? Mainly a shout out to Jorge. We've had some more battles this week, and it was amazing racing with him all week. So shout out to him. Well, that was Kevin Verbruggen standing that third place on the podium, and I believe that we've got one more in here. It's going to be Cam Porter catching up with you, Craig.
Yeah, I'm gonna be with Cam. And first of all, Cam, I've missed you. It's great to see you again. And it is, of course, the 49. Looked out there today. You were having a nice bit of fun, some really good side-by-side battling. But you also did catch on the camera a little bit of frustration at some points when you lost a couple positions. But it looked fun out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great race for me. Good results. Had some good battles with some guys on the track. Yes, it was a little bit frustrated. Guys were trying a little hard, and someone bumped me from behind and had some contact on the straight when I was trying to make a pass. But everything worked out fine. It was a good race, so thumbs up.
Yeah, we got thumbs up there, of course. COTA, it's we said at the start, it's a Marmite track. It's the Vegemite track. You either love it or you hate it. What is your opinion of this track? I need to know your opinion on this.
I don't mind it, actually. I think there are some sections that have some nice flow and good passing opportunities. It's nice and wide. What made a difference for me at this track in particular is getting triple monitors, because it's so wide. When I had a single monitor, I couldn't see the apexes to the corners. So now that I have triples, I feel like I've done a lot better since getting this set up. And yeah, I can do much better at this track now.
I can confirm, I never drove the track until I had my 49-inch ultra-wide. I can confirm, you kind of need it on this sort of track here, but you don't need it next week. Well, you do need still triple monitors anyway, but you don't need it next week. We're at Brands Hatch. I feel that might be a little bit more suited for you. Am I right?
I don't know. Brands Hatch is not necessarily my best track. As I keep saying, never met a track I didn't like. So I'm looking forward to some racing at Brands Hatch. I just can't guarantee I'm going to do as well at that track.
We'll still see you. We'll still see you out there. We're pretty sure we will see you flirting with that top 10, of course. Anybody, though, as the last time is, I know that you've been doing some laving, you've been doing some woodwork, but please tell me, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out for?
Just a shout out to GSRC for putting on a great broadcast every week. So thanks a lot, guys, for the great work and great commentary.
We'll let you get back to your woodworking. I know it's a Saturday, but we'll let you get back to that. That was Cam Porter, who finished 13th today. That is going to be all she wrote, Joey.
Yeah, it's going to kind of wrap it up for our broadcast today. Want to give a big thank you to the team, Christian, Craig, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race for the 49s is going to be Brands Hatch, like you heard us talking about in the interviews, 1 week from today, same time, November 9th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, daylight savings is tomorrow, so just make sure you don't miss it next week. Be sure to check out all the other broadcasts listed here, because up next today is IMSA Vintage at Jerez, 1 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Yeah.